All right, thank you so much. Now to our judges. We'll start with Dara. Dara would begin.
I think you guys did amazing. Again, I tend to look back at your video, and your video was really mediocre. Your video was not. It was not something you guys qualified because I remember you were the first to submit. I don't know if you would have qualified had you not been the first to submit, but you know your team is so strong. You have three very good. The premise was so good. You put on a show for the premise. I found it funny, but it was nice. And I thought, okay, when you finished the premise, I was thinking maybe you should have been a debater because I don't know if your other debaters are going to be strong. But they came up and they were very strong. You guys did amazing. I'm very impressed. I also think you had a firm understanding of what we were talking about. There's a gender equality is very tricky. There's a tendency to move to gender roles. There's a tendency to move to feminism. There's a tendency to kind of, it's like a scale of 1 to 10. There's a tendency to just drift along. And I feel like at times where there was drifting, you responded to the drifting and then you came back to topic. You responded to so you had a very mature control of your argument, and I think that was amazing. For achievers, I would say right off the bat that I expected a bit more. So there's a lot that you could do with your argument. I don't think I was getting that. I felt like you were drifting more. So I felt like you were drifting and they were kind of bringing it back to topic with their argument, which is funny because your closer said, that they, were not focusing on what the argument was. But I feel like they did to a large extent. This is about pay. So it's about gender equality and pay, and I think they stayed on that topic. I think you stayed on it, but you generalized over it. I don't think you kind of went right to the issues and then addressed the issues and told us why those issues were there. So because if what we're saying is, if they are saying that a man and a woman in the same industry at the same level are getting paid differently, I really wanted to have an answer for that. So why is that happening? Is that happening? So that's the major thing here. Is there a disparity in equal pay where people are doing the same work and the same effort and getting the same output? So just a minute, you can respond in a minute. So that was something that I kind of struggled with understanding where you were coming from. And my last thing here was, you said if there was a statement, a question that you had, if we had to select between a caregiver for an elderly person. My dad, so I have just my dad who is elderly, and if he ever got so elderly that he needed a caregiver, I would 100% go for a male caregiver. So I would 100% go for a male caregiver for my male dad, and if it was my mom, then I would 100% go for a female caregiver for my female mom. So I don't think the example of a caregiver and people automatically moving towards a lady, again, if you had just said that, but posing the question to us begs my reply. I don't think I would have done that.
I must say that this was a lovely session for me from both groups. The very first presenter, as Achievers, I love your persuasion and your delivery was on point. You're a speaker, okay? That was good. But I must say, I think it was the third speaker. What I would just want to point out from that group is the third speaker. You come up, the time you had, you would have used to either argue, bring forth your arguments and state on your premise to explain better. You took that first time to attack someone's personality in an argument or in a debate like that. You don't address people's personality. You should come out respectful when you're debating your point. I hope that is clear. Okay, so just take note of that. And so it was a violation of etiquette. It was yes, you just named her a feminist, whether or not she is. I don't know. You shouldn't say you dwelt on that and you took up much of your time, and we couldn't even get anything out from much of your arguments at the end of the day. All right, so that's just about it, but I must also commend the second speaker who came up with a few facts, but I still was, because at the time I had to call our attention to be sure whether this topic was properly addressed. Because I had to, the concept, there are issues that ought to have been addressed. Are they represented equally? And the issue about pay, working in the same industry. I didn't really get enough of your argument, dwelling on those concepts. So for the Trailblazers, okay, I'm not saying much, but I want to thank you for that engagement. And I also want to speak, for the second speaker. Yes, every one of you did excellently well. And the fact that the third speaker came and still brought our attention to what exactly the concept is addressing is a plus for your group. And for the second person, you came up initially, I just want to talk about your delivery. Initially, you were not sitting up properly, but eventually by the time you gained the stage, you gave us what we needed to hear. So I want to just say a few of these points. Let the grinder do his job. Thank you.
Grinder. First of all, yes, that calling your opponent a feminist was something I noted. Please, I'm very, very against labeling in any aspect, particularly in a debate. We should not be labeling or attacking the personality of our opposition. Fantastic debates. I think the opener for Achievers and the second debater for Trailblazers stood out for me. I think you were both very, very fantastic. I think you had a decent supporting cast. But what was funny is I have a totally different opinion to what Dara said. I think you were very correct when you said they had straight off points. We went into an emotional topic. I agree that you actually did go off point. The presentation was fantastic. The persuasion was on point. And were we talking more of a human rights, equality, it was a fantastic argument that will win anywhere. But I have to agree that the topic we're talking about, which is cogent reasons, not somebody said that women are treated badly, was not addressed. Let me just raise a few empirical examples. You mentioned, the second debater, that they were conflating equality and equity, and that equality is the road to equity. You said something like that. What did you say? Please, let me say what you said again.
I said that equity,
yes,
which helps us achieve gender equality, is the road to gender equality.
Okay, and that's a heavy fallacy, because equity and equality, they are two different ideological frameworks entirely. Equality starts at opportunity, just giving opportunity. Equity means manipulating the events to get your desired outcome regardless. Equity just means we want a desired outcome. So it's a different thing entirely between equality and equity. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. Thank you. So that I noted. On a lighter note, I almost laughed when you said who was feeding Adam before Eve was created. That's why God said you should not be alone. Anyway, moving on. The first debater, look, and this was something I chastised somebody in the last debate for. We should be very careful not to preach or campaign, not to say we need to change, that's not debating. Debating is what, where, why, how. You're meant to drop. We're here to argue merits and demerits. Let's not campaign, let's not preach, let's not label, let's not slow. That's not why we're here. It's a debate, not political campaign. Look, everybody keeps using that study of women being paid less than men. Even the debunkers are debunking themselves. It's been debunked so many times, the debunkers are debunking themselves. It was not about job types or anything. The issues that were raised were everybody has equal entry level, but some women tend to go and get married, some have children, and what happened was they did not aggregate per unit time. They would have gotten equal pay. What they did was they just lumped what everybody earns, regardless of who was doing more overtime, which men tend to do more, and things like that. So the study was not, will I say, I don't use the word honest, but the study was not very detailed, so it has been debunked over and over. So I think we should refrain from using that study. And you guys, I'm sorry, but you missed a lot of opportunities to poke holes. One thing I enjoy when I see a debate is you guys poking holes in each other's arguments. You're meant to come here and spy each other. The first thing I expect to hear as somebody comes is, okay, as this person say, and immediately go, you know. I think you guys have the raw material to have made this a really feisty affair, but you didn't. I must commend, like I said, the opener for Achievers. What I admire is the first debater taking the role of also premise giver, not just stating the stance, but laying out everything and the plan. I think that was very fantastic. I think both of you are nice. I think both of you are great. But I just have that one lingering thing that I do agree that you may, I mean, she disagrees with me, so difference of opinion, but I think you may have gone towards the gender equality, and we left our workplace payment across, you see, across every industry. So what I expected was take each industry, sports, this, which I saw him do, to be fair. He brought them modeling, sports. What I wanted from you was to counter that. Bring out places where same industry. You gave the example of this Lily babe that was in Goodyear tires. That was fantastic, and that's what I wanted more of, because from there you have a clear case, watertight, of gender discrimination. But it's going to be hard to decide, but fantastic debate all the same.
So, Nasri, I have a question for Nnamdi. I mean, you said that equity and equality are two extremes. So, you said equity is here and equality is here. Okay, what did you say?
I said equality refers to opportunity, meaning we all are equal. Equity is an artificial process of manipulating, and you want a desired outcome. So regardless, you are doing things. So it's like, if you want to give, we have special laws. Sometimes equity, and I don't want you to think I'm saying it as always negative. There's some equity laws that are important. I'll give you a straight one. Building codes that help disabled people. You don't always have to have all those things, but for equity that everybody should access public buildings, there must be some things. So equity is you wanting a desired outcome regardless. Equality is, this is the opportunity. Nobody's getting it. Everybody bring yourself to the table and sort yourself out. That is it.
So although equity can be here, because you did use the analogy of equity being here and equality being here. So although equity may be here and equality could be here, when you talk of gender equality, the equity is what is making us ask for the equality. So they are connected when you talk of gender equality. So when we're talking about gender equality, it's from a history of an absence of equity, so an absence of fairness, and in the desire to pursue this fairness, we are now asking for equality. So I feel like those two things are connected in this instance.
I'm sorry, now you're conflating slogans with definitions. No, that's what you're doing. No. You can't do that. You can't start giving slogans and saying that's a definition. You're self-defining. No, let's not self-define. These things have actual definitions, which we can look up. Look, we have gone from using a slogan, gender equality, when what you are looking for is, I'm coming, wait, let me finish. Using a slogan, gender equality, right? When what you want is equity, does not make equality equity. The fact that I have a can of beans and I label it rice does not make it rice. That is the honest truth. Something that is done in campaigning and propaganda is labeling and using of terminology. That does not make it. Define the action. When you manipulate occurrences to get a desired outcome, you are trying to get equity. You can call it equality, you can call it Nnamdi. It doesn't make it equality just because someone said it is. So let's not conflate slogans with actual words.
All right. Dara, would you like a rebuttal on that?
Yes. Nnamdi, I think you are the one that is just using slogans and using words all over the place. If we said something here, they were talking about equity. Can you repeat the statement that you made? So let's stay on their statement.
I said that equity is a process by which we achieve
Gender equality.
Gender equality, yes.
It's 100% correct. Can we get to, can anybody, so if that is an opinion, then that is my opinion. But what I'm trying to say here is equity and equality are different. But when we talk about gender equality, you cannot remove equity from that conversation, because if not that we were trying to do what was equitable, then we would leave people to fight for their equality. But where people can't fight for their equality, in law they say equity considers done that which should have been done. So please, can I finish? Nnamdi, can I finish? So what I'm simply just saying, you know what? I'm just going to, for the sake of everybody else here, I'm going to debate with Nnamdi offline so that we can carry on with this. But I'm saying again that I still agree with what you guys said on equity being the process by which we get gender equality. No, so I'm going to okay. I was going to say I'm going to hold the mic. I'm not giving you the mic.
Look, can we just apologize to you guys? We've kept you guys on stage. I apologize. I really cannot hear something that is not very true and keep quiet. But we'll let it rest. Thank you guys very much. Sorry, what I wanted to point out was you mentioned that if anybody wanted to respond, remember, we said they should wait till we finish. So if anybody does want to respond to anything we said at this point.
There's a current study on acceptability and payment of paid caregivers in Enugu State that currently exists in Enugu State. And it was seen that when adult offsprings were being asked which particular gender they would prefer to care for their parents, they picked the female caregivers. Also, I would like to talk about the fact that this debate is not a debate of. This debate actually discriminates against a particular gender. We can see this in the European Union mandatory law that states that mandatory quota that states that women should have a 40% representation in corporate boards. What does a 40% representation on corporate boards means? This means that you're already trying to create, when you're saying that you're creating gender equality, trying to create inequality. Also, I would like to talk about the fact that CNN this year has talked about the effect of DEI. DEI is the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Law, which currently exists in US, which is an equality, talks about equality. And this has been seen by critics to actually create discrimination by trying to solve discrimination. You're trying to solve discriminatory practices by trying to discriminate against or disadvantaging certain groups of people, which is not gender equality. Rather, this is inequality.
I wish you had said all this during the debate. Yeah. So I wish you had said all this during the debate, and I wish you had spoken with this level of conviction. So this persuasion, this conviction, it simply wasn't there while you were debating. But thank you for those responses. Thank you. I wish you had, instead of posing the question to the audience on who would you choose, I wish you had just given the statistics on a survey that was conducted in Enugu, and this was the result. So, but if you pose the question to us, then we must reply, and I gave you my reply. But well done, because you've showed us a different side of you, and honestly, that last bit could just influence your scores by a few points. So thank you.
That's 3 points. 3 points added to your scores.
I didn't say 3. I said a few. I didn't say 3.
I heard 3 points.
I said a few points.
Oh, okay. All right.
But Nasri, if you'd want us to add 3, you're literally our 4th judge, so we could add 3 on your behalf if you say so.
Can I respond to your question, ma? You asked a question about the topic. You asked a question about the topic earlier.
So go ahead.
The topic was gender equality in the workplace is being abused. Then the context given was men and women cannot be represented and paid equally in every sector. The context of their argument was men and women must be represented and paid equally in every sector. The context had been men and women should be given equal opportunities, our argument would have been very, very different. But because it said men and women should be represented and paid equally in every sector, that shaped the context of our argument. So we are saying that this cannot happen because when you consider the factors that influence this representation and pay, which we listed, biological factors, the pay from what we listed, these factors will not allow men and women to be paid equally in every sector and represented equally.
So I heard you, but I don't feel you drove your points home. So I don't feel your persuasion was up there. I don't feel so, I heard you list those points, but, listing it doesn't quite get it across. I don't feel you drove the points home. And I do remember that they specifically said that, yes, they think that each gender should be represented in every workspace. And their reasons were profound. They said because environments influence interests, and that right now the environment is being biased, and so the environment right now is making women only focus on certain things, and that is why everything must be represented. So again, just my opinion, I leaned towards their arguments, and perhaps Nandi leaned towards yours, which is fine, but those were just my observations.
All right, thank you so much. Any other questions? Are we good? Let's begin with you, Dara. Remember, they spoke on the topic gender equality. Trailblazers was for gender equality, and then we had Achievers against gender equality. Accurate. All right, Dara, over to you.
Yeah, for me, this was easier for me. Team Achievers, your first debater brought some strong points, and when it was time to answer questions, I think your second debater did very well when it was time to answer questions. I did give you a few points for that. Your closer unfortunately labeled someone a feminist. Not that I know what is wrong with a feminist to begin with, but that was an etiquette violation, so that brought your scores down. So for me, on this round, it's Trailblazers for me.
Trailblazers for this round. There are the Trailblazers. Now it's up to Mrs. Nkiruka. What was your verdict for them?
Yeah, thank you very much. I also want to give it to Trailblazers as well. Don't say I keep aligning with her, because at some point I became confused as to whether they are addressing the concepts in that debate. So I give it to them. For me, it's Trailblazers. Thank you.
Okay, so Trailblazers. So Dara, remind us, you chose Trailblazers and Trailblazers 2 for Mrs. Nkiruka. The Trailblazers seem to have it now.
They have it already, yeah.
Now they would still like to know your thoughts.
I think Trailblazers had stronger debaters. I think they had a stronger roster. I think, again, like I've been noticing, you have a very, very strong debater that seems to be carrying a team alone. However, I didn't give Trailblazers because I felt that even though they debated far better as a team, I felt they were not on topic. I agreed, and so I had given my own to the Achievers.
Oh, Achievers won gold, but Trailblazers, you are the winner of this round of Debate School. Congratulations to you. Congratulations.